Again, thank you for joining us this evening for our Cumberland Family Academy workshop. Cumberland Family Academy is a Cumberland County Schools initiative. The Cumberland Family Academy is committed to enriching the lives of children by bringing parents, guardians, and schools closer together as equal partners. When families have high expectations for children and encourage them to work hard, they support and promote a child's academic, social, and emotional well-being. The purpose of the Family Academy program is to provide families with the necessary tools to support the success of their child's education. This evening, our workshop presenters are from the Cumberland County Schools Academic Services Secondary Team. They will be presenting this evening. We have Yemi Pearson, Secondary Math Specialist, Shawnette Simmons, Secondary Math Specialist, Sarah Teal, Secondary ELA Specialist, Martina Graham, Secondary ELA Specialist, Jonathan France, Social Studies K-12 Specialist, Catherine McPartland, Dodea STEM Grant Coordinator, Dr. Diana Dubisky, Secondary District Instructional Coach, and Dr. Jane Fields, Assistant Superintendent for Secondary Education. They will be sharing with you various supports in each of the core content areas to help your child. Just a few details.
On behalf of the Secondary Academics team, I would like to welcome you to tonight's session. We are just delighted to be able to spend the evening with you and hopefully share some strategies that will help you as you support your children in their educational journey. I think it's important for you to know that not only are we educators, and we're going to be sharing tips and strategies that are content specific, but most of us sharing with you tonight are also parents of school-age children. So we are in this together. If we will have an opportunity for you to ask questions at the end, and I will also make sure that you have my contact information so that we can continue to network and collaborate, and we can support you as you're supporting your children. This first link, distance learning parent tips. We know that you have been on this distance learning or remote learning with your child since March. And for the last 8 months, you have probably done most of this, but we wanted to put this link from Khan Academy in there and pay close attention to the last piece on there. You're doing so much as you are taking care of your children. And I will say this, we in a normal school year and in this remote setting could not do what we do as educators without the support of wonderful parents and families like we have in Cumberland County. So we want to say thank you and remind you that you have to make time for yourself. We know that this has been an additional strain on families as they're trying to navigate learning platforms and help their children adjust to learning and participating in school from home. And we just want to let you know that you're appreciated, and please be reminded that you must make time for yourself as well.
So before we start with our core content areas, we have placed a link in the chat for you to join and have some fun with us this evening as we go through our core content areas. And we want you as parents to experience a little
Yemi's
to give answers and for teachers to give those students feedback.
Okay,
so,
Yemi went out. Yeah, you did. So like she said in the chat feature, we have placed a Nearpod link that we would like for you to join. So if you would just click on that link that's in the Nearpod, or you could also join by going to join.nearpod.com and placing that code that you see there, and putting your names there. So Yemi's gonna let us know. We're gonna give people a few minutes to kind of log in, and Nearpod is just one of those platforms that your students are experiencing during their live class sessions with teachers to be more engaged and interactive during those lessons. So we also wanted to make sure that you experience that tonight with us as we go through our presentation with you on this evening.
Hopefully you can hear me again. So right now we have 5 participants. So I do want you to know we're still sharing our screen. So you have the option to continue watching and listening to everything within the Zoom, or again, you can participate and engage by joining nearpod.com and placing the code that you see in the left corner now. So right now I see we have about 5 participants. And I'm going to advance to the slides that we just left off on. So as we talk about secondary mathematics, we are talking about mathematics for grades 6 through 12. And so before we get into the content that we want to discuss, we want to ask you a question. What is mathematics to you? So we want to give you about 30 seconds to think of what mathematics means to you as a parent, as a student, as an educator, whatever your role is. What is mathematics to you? So on the next, if you are in the Nearpod, it will ask you to share your thoughts as soon as I open for responses. So if you could look at the bar at the bottom and share your thoughts or images. And again, we're asking you to use 3 words or less and tell us what mathematics is to you. So thank you all for sharing. So again, if you're in the Nearpod, you can see somebody use symbols. I like it. You could see some of the responses that are being generated. And as well, if you're on Zoom, you could see what we are seeing. So one of the other pieces that your students are able to do when they're using the Nearpod is they're able to like the responses. And again, they're able to engage because they're seeing the other pieces that their classmates are placing in this collaborate board as well. So I see a lot about numbers. I see a lot about, somebody said hard. So we know that sometimes mathematics is one of those subjects that the majority of people may not rally around as much. So we do want to make sure we help you as parents understand what the curriculum consists of. So in these slides, we have links to each of the standard course of studies. And this standard course of study outlines what the mathematics is that they're learning. So if I click on the 6th grade standard course of study, you'll see here that it talks about ratios and proportional relationships. And these are the standards and the wording that goes along with what they're learning for that particular domain. Then we see number system. This is a huge domain for 6th grade mathematics. Also for 6th grade mathematics, we deal with expressions and equations, we deal with geometry, and we deal with statistics and probability. And so throughout middle school, these are the
Okay, Yemi just went out again, and she knew she went out again. So again, like she said, these are the standards for our middle school They do tie in together. So you're going to see a lot of the same numbers, like ratio and proportional relationship starts in 6th grade and carries through 7th grade as well into 8th grade. So it's making those connections and showing you the coherence. So we do have those links placed for you for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Also, we do have accelerated courses for 6th and 7th grade. And they do use those same standard course of studies, but in our accelerated courses for 6th grade, we will put some of the 7th grade concepts in there. 7th grade will actually do some of the 8th grade. And then our accelerated course is actually our high school math 1 course that some 8th graders will also take. On the next slide, we have for you the middle school family materials that we're using. Our resources is for Open Up, so you have that link. So if you are assisting your child, and we know math looks a little different than the way it looked when we were learning it. So these are aligned to our standards. And Yemi, just click on one of those units there so that parents can see that there are actual the big ideas for each unit, and it shows you like key terms that are also there and how it looks and describes it. And if she scrolls down just a little bit, you can actually give your child a question that, you know, to ask them to draw a diagram that shows the ratio of legs, the tails, and then it gives you the solutions that are there. So we have that for each of our units for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And if you are going into the Canvas course, those links are also placed there for you as well. For our high school courses, we actually have 4 maths now. So we have Math 1, Math 2, and Math 3, as well as Math 4, which is our new course that is being offered this year. And so again, all of those courses, again, are getting our students ready to be career and college ready. We also have for them on our next slide here, pre-calculus and discrete math. But we also offer AP courses in which students can take and get college credit. If they take that particular test and they do get a certain score on it, they will be awarded college credit for that particular one. So this is being offered to all of our students, and we definitely want parents to be aware of what those math courses are for our students. Now, for tonight's purpose, she's going to click on this link. A lot of times you're at home and you're trying to help support your child. And one of the things that we want you to understand is that the reason why that math looks so different from when we learned it is because there's research that shows that students who have an understanding of the math rather than just merely memorizing it tend to do better in math. So that's why some of those questions that are going home, they're really getting students to think. We want to create critical thinkers. That is what we're preparing them for in the real world. So on this brief, you can also see there are a list of strategies that are problem-solving strategies that you can direct your child to if they get stuck somewhere. You can say, hey, have you tried to organize, you know, put your information in a table? Did you try guess and check? Did you try to look for a pattern? And one of the things that we tend to do sometimes as parents, we don't like to see our kids struggle. We want to do the math for them. So there are some questions in that second bullet that you can ask instead of trying to do it, you know, get that conversation started, you know, ask them things such as, you know, what is the problem asking you? How are you thinking about this problem? Can you draw that picture? And then take them back into those problem solving strategies. And one of the most important pieces that this brief also talks about is communicating with your teachers, your child's teachers, so that you can see what supports that they also have available for your child as well. And we're going to see if Yemi can get back in now for this last activity. Oh, you take it off mute.
I'm going to try it one more time.
Okay.
So Shawnette just mentioned problem-solving strategies, and sometimes it's not about getting the correct answer. It's about the process that is involved in coming up with that correct solution. So what we want you to do as we finalize our math segment is think about a strategy that you would use to find the sum of the numbers in this grid. Again, we do not want an answer as to what the sum is. If anyone has a question about what sum is when you take all of the numbers and add those together. But we want to know, what strategy do you think you could use to find the sum of these numbers without adding them one by one? So we're going to give you about 30 seconds think time.
Yemi, there was a question in the chat. Where can they access the Open Up tool again?
Awesome. So the family materials, we can place a link in the chat so you could get straight to those, and we'll place 6th, 7th, and 8th grade in there for you, Stephanie. I'm not sure exactly what grade, but just in case someone needs another one, we can do that as well. But your child should have the family materials linked in their Canvas course from their particular 6th, 7th, or 8th grade math course in Canvas. Awesome. Okay, so is there anyone that would like to chat, or yeah, you need to chat because they can't unmute. Would anyone like to type in the chat a strategy that they feel like they could use to find the sum? Again, we don't want the sum, but what strategy would you use? Okay, see, no way. John said no way. Oh, I see question marks. Okay, so let me give you a little hint. Let's look at the diagonals. So don't look at this as rows and columns. Let's look at the diagonals. Stephanie said possibly the area formula. Okay. So if I look in the top left corner, there's 1, 1. Everybody see the 1, 1? Can I see heads shake? Yes, good. All right, how many 2s do you see? Can we get fingers shown? How many 2s do we see? Okay, 2 2s. What about 3s? Okay, so hopefully you see that in order to find the sum, you're doing what's called a standard for math practice, and that's looking for and expressing regularity and repeated reasoning, or looking for and making use of structures and patterns. So along with the content that your students are learning in regards to mathematics, they're also demonstrating that they're mathematically proficient by showing evidence of the standards for math practice. So thank you for participating and attempting to solve that mathematical task.
Okay, on this slide, we also have placed some helpful links. Khan Academy is another one that ranges from elementary all the way up to some of the college level courses. We only link the math courses that are here, but you can always set up your own parent account, and it will kind of give them a test to kind of identify where they are and then kind of work them up from that. So we did put a getting started link for there. Also, our North Carolina Department of Instruction also has some math parent resources that are also available to you. And they also give you those content briefs for each grade level. For our high school, we have the SAT College Board links that are listed there for you, as well as the ACT Academy for your high school students. And then we just put the link for that, that brief again for homework. So now we're going to turn it over to our ELA team partners.
Whoop, whoop, ELA, ELA. So good evening, everyone. My name is Martina Graham, one of the ELA specialists, and we are going to start off as well with an interactive activity. And our icebreaker is called Would You Rather? So what we're going to ask is that you read each scenario, and then you're going to make your selection on which one of these you would rather do. So Yemi, can we start the activity? All right, and you're going to have 15 seconds to answer these questions. Would you rather read a fictional story or poem or read an article? And so I see some people participating in the chat, so that's fine as well. All right, Yemi, here we go to the, okay, here we go. Next question, 2-1. Would you rather write an article with claims and evidence or write a narrative with imagined experiences? Narrative. Narrative. Uh-oh. Yemi, will we be able to go back and see these results?
Yeah, I'm sharing the results as after they complete them. So can you see them now on the Nearpod screen?
Okay, I see it off to the left.
Okay.
All right. So here's another one. Would you rather present a presentation with multimedia, kind of like we're doing now, or participate in a group discussion? Oh, look at there, participate in a group discussion. All righty, so Yemi, if you could go back one, would anybody like to unmute and talk about any of the would you rathers? Anybody want to unmute?
They can't unmute, but they could share in the chat.
Oh, they can share in the chat. There you go. So let's see some of the responses in the chat. So I see here, present a presentation. We have some people who would rather present a presentation, where the majority of the group would rather participate in a group discussion. And all right, so what we have done for you is give you a preview of the strands that make up our ELA standards. And all of our standards are within those strands. So we have our reading strand and the question of would you rather read a poem or would you rather read an article? We have our writing strand. Would you rather do a research project or would you rather write a narrative? We have our speaking and listening. Would you rather present to an audience or would you rather, what was the other one? Would you rather participate in a group discussion? And what you'll realize is these are the things in ELA that our students should know and be able to do. So one of the reasons we selected this particular activity is with our standards, our students don't have the choice of whether or not they do these things. So as parents, we can encourage them to say, hey, well, although we may not want to do this particular way, these are some things that we can do to ensure that you have mastered those standards. So Sarah, who is my partner, will go through our parent guide to provide you some more information about those standards that your students will experience throughout their year.
Thank you guys for participating in our poll. That was really interesting to see. And I saw in the chat that some who prefer to read articles prefer to write fiction. So that was some interesting contrasts in our audience tonight. And as Martina said, that's a preview of what your students learn, the skills they learn in English language arts, and some of the choices that they have within our curriculum also. So just like math, we've linked the North Carolina Standard Course of Study for ELA for you for middle school for the grade levels, and all the way through our high school English courses, English 1 through 4. The awesome thing about our ELA standards is that they're vertically aligned. So that standard course of study has the same strands from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. And each year students are growing in the complexity of the text that they read, and their skills are deepening. Their analysis skills are deepening with each grade level as they learn more content to build on those standards. So like Martina said, we have 5 strands within our ELA standards. We have reading literature, and reading information. So we're working on students becoming strong and skillful readers and being able to read and analyze the information that they're reading. We have writing, where they learn to research and to write for all sorts of audiences and purposes and types. We have our speaking and listening skills, so they're learning to become effective learners and communicators. And then we have our language skills, where they learn how the English language works and how to understand it when they're reading and how to use that language effectively when they are writing and speaking. So what they're learning in each grade level falls K through 12 in these same 5 strands, and you see that at every grade level. So you saw there's a lot of detail to those standards, but the key for you guys, I think, is going to be the parent guide for your child's grade level. So when you click on that parent guide, you're going to get some great information about how to support your students with acquiring their skills and what they have to learn to know and be able to do by the end of that particular grade. So we're looking at 7th grade here, and this parent guide is going to show us what's expected of our 7th graders in English language arts in each of the strands. It's going to introduce us to the standards at that grade level and what might be coming that's new at that grade level or a deeper level. It's going to give us reading and writing strategies. So this is kind of what math shared, the strategies that are going to help your students be most successful. So once we know what's expected of them in that grade level, and we see kind of a really good sample of what the standards are like for our students at that grade level, here are a lot of activities that we can do at home to support them with their reading and with their writing. So these are great for any time, but especially during this time when you are really side by side with your students and supporting them in their growth as readers and writers during this distance learning time. So this guide is going to give you a lot of detail about your grade level, but it's going to give you those most important pieces. So you can really see those concepts that your student is learning to master this year and how to support them as they grow toward that. And so you have those for each of the grade levels for middle school and for our high school English courses. So the guides follow that same format. Of course, with high school, our high school English courses are going to give you the specifics of what students are going to have to know and be able to do by the end of those courses to pass their end of course test and get that credit and advance to that grade level. But just keeping in mind that our standards provide what students need to know and be able to do at each grade level so that they're on track for being college and career ready in the end. So they have those strong communication skills that they're going to want to utilize in their future education, in their job, and whatever their interests are and what they want to pursue after high school. We know one of the biggest challenges that you have at home is providing the resources that your students need for reading. The best way that we can support our kids in their growth in English language arts is encouraging them to read every day. And reading is reading. Encouraging them to read what they love and what they are interested in is going to build their stamina. It's going to build their skills, their joy, and their love of reading. It's going to help them find their interests. And it's definitely going to support their mastering their reading standards at their grade level as well. So we just wanted to provide a lot of different links for you so that you can help your child find things that they might enjoy reading. And here's some examples of those, as well as a link to our public library. So if it's challenging for you to find reading material at home, you've got a lot of options at your fingertips to encourage your students to read every day and to share that reading with them.
And as Sarah shared, asking students to read every day, whether it's preparing for an upcoming lesson, whether it's something that they are enjoying to read. Here's what I like to call the cheat code for you parents. Here's some standard-based questions that you can shock your students by asking them, and they'll probably want to know, well, how did you know to ask this question? So these are some questions on the next 2 slides and prompts that you can ask your students as they are reading. So unlike it was when we were in school where we had to answer the who, what, when, where, and why, our students now are being challenged to analyze the text. So here's your cheat code. These are the questions that are standard based to support your students in their reading. So I'll pass it on over to social studies.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Martina. Thank you, everybody. And thank you for being here. So when we think about social studies, okay, I do this all the time. People ask me what I do. I say, oh, I'm a history teacher. So what is the first thing that comes to mind when you hear that? On our next slide, we're going to ask you to kind of just off the top of your head, what comes to mind when you hear somebody say history class? Okay. Okay. So I'm seeing some things populate there. Dates, biography. Oh, we got to know about this guy. We got to know about this king and this, all these people, right? Boring old textbooks. Okay. But then somebody else said fun, which is awesome because I love that. Okay. Places I've visited. Okay. And that's the thing, right? So many of us as adults get history because we've lived it. We've walked to places, we've been there. I know one of the real moments of my kind of historical career was when I walked across Civil War battlefields, but kids don't have all those life experiences yet. And so contextualizing history for them when all of it feels like it happened a long time ago before they were born becomes a challenge. Can we go ahead to the next slide, please? So history classes used to be, if you think of kind of the old kind of want lecture, that discussion of battles, presidents, kings, the important men model of history, lots and lots of dates, facts, figures, details. It was the subject of trivia contests, right? Like if you're good in your social studies class, you're good at Trivia Pursuit or at trivia night or whatever. Social studies today is a very different kind of field. We're now focused on what is called inquiry. And really that dovetails very well with what you heard from our ELA specialists when they talked about, what kind of things do you want to read? That informational article, well, that's social studies. When they talked about, do you want to write a narrative or research? Well, social studies asks kids to write historical narratives that are research based. Do you want to present or discuss? You're going to do both of those things in the social studies class. So let's take a look at that in a little more detail. Okay, so what does that do? What does that look like? How does that work? Students are asked what are called compelling questions. Not just who was the president when this happened, that's not compelling, but why questions, how questions that ask them to sort of analyze and make judgments, okay? They're not going to memorize historical facts to repeat on the test. Instead, they're going to use historical facts to support their arguments in response to these questions. The goal of a social studies education today is not trying to win trivia night, but rather to engage students in things that feel like court cases, legal debates, political arguments, that kind of thing. Okay, so these compelling questions, right? And this is where sometimes we get as parents, we get a little like, wait, teacher said what? Okay. The purpose of the compelling question is to excite student interest. It's to invite class debate. You're not going to invite class debate with a boring question. So the questions sometimes can feel a little controversial. Wait, you talked about what in that class? Right, exactly. The point is not to impose the teacher's view, but rather for the teacher to facilitate an open-ended discussion that's going to get kids involved. So yeah, there are going to be some controversial topics that come up in a social studies class, but they're going to come up in a controlled, facilitated way where the teacher can make sure every viewpoint is respected. Now, this poses a real challenge for parents. When the question is the question in the textbook and you just got to help the kid find the textbook answer, look through page 12 through 14 and see if you can find it there. We know how to help that. How do you help your student be ready for an argument that's going to happen in class where you're not there to help? First thing to do is find out what topics they're studying. What are the compelling questions? Talk with your student. What did you learn today? What did you talk about today? What was going on in class? And then engage your student in conversation to help them understand your family's perspective, your beliefs, and how that informs their understanding of the topic. Help them understand why you hold the views you do and why you feel their views are, correct and well-informed. Okay, so now to get to kind of the nitty-gritty of what is actually taught. Our standards are interesting because our standards are all about the skills. Students are going to form arguments around these things. They're going to use maps and graphs and data and charts to support those arguments, things like that. But the topics are historical topics. So 6th grade talks about ancient world history, 7th grade, modern world history, 8th grade is North Carolina and American history, where we try to also bring in the local. But if we are to click those links, you'll actually see that the standards don't really specifically talk much about the facts of, in this case, American history. Instead, and actually click one more time to the PDF, please. There we are. Yep. Instead, and I did that because North Carolina is changing these, but you'll still have that link. Okay. So this describes what the topic is, but if we scroll down, you see the standards say things like understand conflict, compromise, and negotiation. There's a whole lot of things a teacher might bring in as examples of conflict and compromise in American history. Everything from conflict in the American Revolution to, conflict today. All right, let's go on back to the slides. And thank you, Ms. Pierce. High school courses. We're actually in the midst of a state mandated change to our courses, but here's what it looks like right now. Right now, all our students, unless you're at an early college, no, even there, all our students take world history in their freshman year. And then unless you're at an early college, sophomores take American 1, and then juniors take American History 2. And then seniors take a course called American History, the Founding Principles, Civics, and Economics. If you came up through the North Carolina schools, you probably called this Pell. Also, the state has recently approved a new course called Economics and Personal Finance, and we'll be bringing that on board in the years to come. So this sequence is going to kind of tweak as those courses roll in. This link is a NCDPI resource for a whole bunch of stuff for remote teaching and learning. So resources for both teachers and families and students, obviously, during this kind of remote learning time that we're in. So you're welcome to kind of go through there. There's lots of stuff there. Like you see, there's virtual field trips. There are things tailored to the specific strands of history, geography, economics, civics and government, and culture. Okay, those strands are the kind of the skill areas in social studies courses. Okay, there's lots there. In my time with you today, I'm not going to be able to walk you through everything that's there, but absolutely, Dr. Fields said, get in touch with us afterwards. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to talk with you, kind of one-on-one and walk you through the resources. And I cede my time to science.
All right, that brings us to science. Good evening, everyone. My name is Katie McPartlin. I am the Jodea STEM Grants Project Director for Cumberland County Schools. And so we're going to begin with another interactive opportunity. It's going to be a little hard to do this one in the chat. So if you want to just kind of think about it in your brain, but in a moment, what's going to come up is different courses. There's going to be 6 different courses, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, biology, earth science, and physical science, and then 6 different subjects. And so my challenge to you is if you can match those subjects to the courses in which they are taught. And so you have about 1.5 minutes to do this one. And when they pop up, if you have the Nearpod open, you should see that the courses are all in capital letters and the subjects or the content pieces are all in lowercase letters, just to make it a little bit easier for you to see. And you should have about 45-ish seconds left. We're down to your last 10 seconds. Make those final choices. Ooh, somebody got 6 out of 6. I'm very impressed. All right, and so what you'll see here as it pops up is that we have a couple of different subjects that match with a couple of different content areas. So for example, we have biology where students are learning about cells and organelles, and they also learn about single-celled and multi-celled organisms in 7th grade. And so my goal with showing you this is that what our students learn in the middle grades is actually built upon as they get to high school. And so it's not just one of those subjects where they learn and then they can forget it. No, they actually need to keep that information because it's going to be built upon year after year after year. And if you go to the next slide, it will show you those matching pairs. Again, 6th grade, they're going to learn things like Earth, Moon, and Sun, which they learn about again in earth science, which is then affected in biology, which they learn about then in physical science. It goes on and on. On your next screen, you're going to see our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade standards, similar to what math, ELA, and history have all shown you. If you click those links, it's going to take you to our North Carolina state standards, where you're going to be able to see in depth what our students learn. So for example, students will learn and understand the properties of waves and wave-like motions in 6th grade. And then I put the unpacking documents on there, which has a little bit more in depth, because I know not everybody's scientists, not everybody understands these concepts, but it's going to be able to help you as parents dig deeper into those subjects and make sure that your students understand what's really being taught. And similarly, we did the same thing for high school science. If you click on one of those links, it will take you to the standards documents where it tells you exactly what the student needs to know, broken down into each individual little piece. And the only difference with, if you would just go back one more slide, sorry. The difference with high school science is that students have a little bit of flexibility when they get to high school. All students are required to take earth science and biology. They'll generally take earth science their freshman year, and biology either their sophomore or their junior year. Biology is our North Carolina EOC exam, end of course exam. All the other subjects will have a North Carolina final exam. But when students that want to go into a scientific field come to the physical science subject, they have the opportunity to A, take physical science, and that would be it. Physical science is a combination of chemistry and physics, or they have the opportunity to take chemistry and physics. Again, we also have AP courses and advanced placement courses such as AP Biology or AP Environmental Science, depending on the school. But those are more geared towards students that know they want to go into science. If your student knows that they want to be a journalism major and are just not interested in science at all, then they have to take the 3 required earth science, biology, and physical science. No digs on journalism majors. We need science journalists too. And I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Dubisky.
So this takes us to how can we, as parents and caregivers, be involved in science learning? So children are naturally curious about the world around them. And as parents and caregivers, we can nurture this curiosity in children of all ages by creating that positive and safe environment at home for exploration and discovery. So what can I do to support my child? So with the unpacking in the curriculum documents, it really goes through the standards, but what can you do for your child? So we can move to the next slide. The next slide just provides you an opportunity to fill in the blanks. And this is a statement that kind of provides us some of the things that we can do. So we'll give you just a couple of seconds to drag and drop. So this is kind of one of those no-brainers. So if we can kind of move through this. So how can we encourage our children? We can encourage our children to what? To observe, to ask questions, to experiment, to tinker, and to seek their own understanding of that natural and human-made phenomena. So we can go to the next slide. With that, what are some things that we can do? So here are some additional resources that we've provided so that you can work at home with your child, making those relevant connections. Science is everywhere. Science is in everything we do. So bridging those connections and having conversations with your child. So we've got a list of content resources, but we also have on the next slide some resources for really helping your children learn science. And Teaching Science from Home, a survival guide for parents. Science is a family affair, providing that hands-on exploration and just engaging in that natural curiosity with your children.
So we want you to know that all of the links that were shared this evening will be shared on our newly updated website that will be coming soon, and you will be able to click on the core areas to also see those links. And I believe that Ms. George will also be sharing this particular Google slide with you so that you are able to access all of the various links that are here. We also encourage parents to check their child's grades frequently in the PowerSchool app that you're able to download. And I know that there were earlier sessions on that. So please make sure that you're doing that and communicating also with your teacher. So at this time, we're going to ask that if you have any questions that you would like to ask us, you could either use the Nearpod or you could also input them in the chat, and then we're going to turn that part over to Ms. George for this particular part. So we're looking in the chat if you have any questions, or also on the Nearpod. And we want to say thank you for joining us tonight.